Hi, this is Dean Aakre, 4-H Youth Specialist at the Center for 4-H, and today we're going to talk about promoting exhibits to the North Dakota State Fair. You promoted exhibits using FairEntry for static exhibits and horse entries last year, and we learned some things through that process, and I have some of those things itemized here. However, this year, the one thing that's going to be different is that you're going to promote all exhibits from your county to the state fair through the FairEntry program. So this short video is to run through the steps in doing so. To promote exhibits, you need to sign into your county fair, and when you do that, go to Fair to Fair Connection. Scroll down the page to find this button at the bottom, Manage Entry Promotions. When you click on that Manage Entry Promotions bar, you will be able to promote entries to the parent fair through any of the synchronized parts of your hierarchy. Entry promotion is done by department, so therefore you would select a department that you want to promote entries from, and you would see all your entries from your county in that department, and you would select those that you want to promote. Let's look at a couple of examples. I've taken some partial screenshots and loaded them here. For example, here I have beef cattle. I have 3 entries that we could click on view and see what those 3 entries are. Or I have dairy cattle with 1 entry, and we can again click on view and see who has those entries. The process will be similar to for all exhibits, except that if you have animals, the program is supposed to take the animal if it's tied to a class with that to the state fair program. However, I have been having some difficulty with that, and so it's very likely you may end up having to add the animal to the state fair entry after you've made the promotion. Let's look at a couple of examples here first. In the 4-H static exhibits, I've got a few entries here available. So if I take a partial picture of that screen, I'll see a green check mark here under eligible for promotion. That means this exhibit can be promoted. I also see a couple of red X's under eligible for promotion on these 2 exhibits, which means they cannot be promoted. And to find out at least a partial reason why, we can click on the question mark in the small black circle on the right-hand side. If we click on that question mark, we get a screen that'll look like this. There are 3 factors that are always listed that help determine the eligibility for promotion. First off, the exhibitor must be an individual, and in this case it is, so there's a green check mark. The animal type must exist in the parent fair, and since this is a static exhibit, it's not applicable. And the last reason is can't already have been promoted. And here we have a red X, which should indicate that this exhibit had been promoted already, and therefore you can't promote it again. The one other factor that might prevent an exhibit from promoting is if the exhibitor isn't found in the state fair FairEntry database. And that would only happen if at the time that I integrate with 4-H Online and put all active 4-H members into the State Fair FairEntry program, which will happen in early to mid-June, if at that time that member was not active, and only active members integrate with the FairEntry program. So if we wanted to promote exhibits here, if for example here in the beef division we had 3 entries, and so they're all shown here and they look like they're all eligible. Now here at this point we could pick 1, 2, or 3 of these depending on what was actually going to go to the state fair. We would check this box next to them on the left hand side, and then there would be a green promote button down towards the bottom of the page. We would click that and that promotion would take place. When promoting an entry in a class which has an animal attached to it, as I said earlier, the animal type must be the same as the animal type in the state fair FairEntry program, and if so, the animal is supposed to move along with the class. However, if the animal does not promote, and like I said, I've been having some difficulty making that work, I've got some questions into the FairEntry people now. If it does not promote for that reason or for any other, then you'll need to go into the State Fair database and actually enter the exhibit. And I'll show you that process in just a moment. I did make a couple of changes in the animal types that I have in the State Fair FairEntry program. Basically, I divided the breeding large livestock type into two: breeding commercial grade and breeding registered. A list of all of those types, animal types for North Dakota State Fair, is on our website under Staff, Reference Resources, and called Animal Types NDSF. So here's what you would do if your animal did not promote with your class entry. The class entry will still go, but if the animal does not follow, then you'll need to enter it in the State Fair database. You do that by logging into the State Fair database, and you will have access to your county's exhibits in that State Fair database. So you'd find the exhibitor, you'd go to exhibitors, find that exhibitor, and take a look at his entries. In this case, we're going to look at this one right here. And as we find the entry, we can see here there is no animal identified. So we can click Edit, and then following that, we can click Add an Animal, and then finally select Enter a New Animal Record. We'll always be using Enter a New Animal Record. When we click on Enter a New Animal Record, then we'll get this short animal type worksheet to take care of. The animal type first will be identified, and of course, having divided dairy breeding into dairy breeding commercial grade and dairy breeding registered, we'll select from those two. I've chosen dairy breeding commercial grade in this instance. And then we'll complete the fields that are in that animal type. If it has an asterisk, a red asterisk next to it, it means it's a required field. So birth date, breed, and tag are required, and the animal name is optional in this particular animal type. If a member was entering this same data into your county FairEntry database, for example, and they got to one of the required fields and did not complete it, they would be stopped at that point. The program will not let them move on and finish the entry to submission until they put some information in a required field. You as manager, however, can bypass a field if you don't have that information, but we hope that you'll be able to gather that and enter it so we have as complete information on animals as we can. Then after those fields have been completed, you would click on Create and Add Animal, and then you would see this kind of information for that animal. Now let's look at a couple other items for exhibits that have been promoted. So if we're looking at the State Fair entry here, and we see that we have several items that can be promoted, and we go ahead and we click on the small box again to the left of their names, we can go ahead and promote those. Once we have done that, clicking the green promote button, we can go into the State Fair and actually look at what we have promoted. And so in this case here, we could view this exhibitor's entry. And generally, the description of the exhibit will go in description, and that description should be, a complete identifier. For example, if this is a woodworking project where a birdhouse was built, it might say a green birdhouse with a blue roof, or something in that order. Or if it was a photo, it might say waterfall at the local park, or something like that that describes the photo. In the case of garden produce and crop exhibits, for example, the class name actually describes what the exhibit is. For example, here, carrots. So then we would like you to include the variety of those. And so I hope that you're asking for that information from your exhibitors. That provides both the judge as well as the viewing public a little more information about the exhibit. After you have promoted all of your exhibits to the State Fair, again, while you're logged into the State Fair, you can go to the reports, then to the entry section, and then entry list, and in parentheses it will say by county and division, for a full list of all your county's exhibits. We'd encourage you to retrieve that report, print it, make a copy for yourself and send another copy along with your static exhibits to the State Fair, because that can aid us as we check in the exhibits and make sure that the exhibits that arrive at the State Fair are the same ones that are listed on this report, which gives us an inventory of what we actually have at the State Fair. And again, remember, there are resources on our website under Staff Reference Resources, and of course there are website resources from the Zendesk for FairEntry as well, and you can follow some of those links at that to arrive for help on various topics at the fair. In addition to that, Lisa Braton and myself are both willing to do a Skype session with you if that can be helpful, so feel free to contact us and maybe we can connect and go through the issue that you're having with FairEntry. Thank you for participating today, watching this video. Good luck with your fair, and we hope to see you at the 2020 North Dakota State Fair.